Didn't wanna be a soldier, wanted to be a child. Fall in love with the world, feel alive. Forced to be a hero when I was left behind. Grew up in an instant to survive. It's a miracle.
Hello, and welcome back to Just a Breezy Chat. We are already on episode 4. Can y'all believe that? Oh my gosh, I'm already starting season 6, and I'm so happy for it. But this is a podcast on my YouTube channel called Breezyville, but this podcast is called Just a Breezy Chat. I do have 4 other podcasts you can go check out as well: True Crime Lounge, Down the Rabbit Hole, Dark Academia Queen, and Sassy Southern Belle. Um, Today we are going to be talking about a topic that I am working through right now, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us are also working through, and that is breaking generational curses. If you're new here, hit that like button, ring that bell for notification. Also, please subscribe, help a girl out. Now, you might have heard this song.
Never got to be wild like the horses, naive like a child. Horrors of the world came knocking, knocking. My feet were in the grass, dancing through.
Subscribe, help a girl out. Now, you might have heard this song, and you might have heard this song.
Fills her glass up. She'd love to kill that bottle, but all she can think about is a better life, a second chance.
Now, you're probably wondering, what is generational trauma? Well, or curses? Well, an excellent definition of that would be is trauma that extends from one generation into the next generation. And it begins when a select group experience of traumatic events that causes experiences a traumatic event and causes economic, cultural, and familial distress. In response, people belonging to this group develop a physical or psychological symptoms. And I think a really great example of this is going to be seen in the Flowers in the Attic series with V.C. Andrews. Um, she is one of my favorite Southern Gothic authors. She doesn't hold a candle to William Faulkner, but her work touches on a lot of generational trauma, from incest to abuse to a lot of things. But I do recommend, if you have never read the V.C. Andrews Flowers in the Attic series, is a must read, and it touches heavily on generational trauma. And it's something I believe that we really do need to break. I'm currently in the process of it as well. My mom had me when she was pregnant, when she was only a teenager. She married my real dad to get out of foster care. She already had my sister before that, so I had my real dad, of course. But like a lot, like growing up, being a product of teen pregnancy and growing up in a abusive, unstable household, and not knowing where your next meal is coming from, it makes you more aware. And it makes you, personally, I think for me, want to make a difference where I'm breaking the cycle. I'm I'm wanting better for myself. And that's the thing. I know she was raised in a different time and she married my real dad just to get out of foster care. And she did the best she could with what she had. But like, there's so much stuff that happens behind closed doors that we don't know about. And breaking the generational cycle on abuse, alcoholism, drugs, teen pregnancy, and all that is something we all need. It is an important thing for me, and I believe that one day at a time, one step at a time, the generational curse will be broken. Will it be easy? Not by a long shot, but it will be worth it in the end. And everything. So, what are some generational traumas? There's domestic violence, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, oppression, racism, war, religious trauma, natural disasters, genocide, slavery. Also, what are some common causes? It typically starts with adverse childhood experience, such as abuse, and then when we become adults, childhood trauma impacts our decisions and how we feel, and even the way we perceive and handle relationships. I know personally for me, I see my mom is on like her third marriage, and my real dad went through 2 marriages. That's including my mom. But And I'm like, I saw how nasty, I saw how toxic and how unstable those marriages can be. Now, fortunately, my mom, I don't know the guy well enough, but he seems to be quieter. But I think that's a good thing. She has somebody who doesn't control, who's not a narcissist, nothing like that. But I've seen like what happens when you marry the wrong person. I've seen how instability happens to you and everything. But we often like we can either make the same mistakes we did as a kid, or we can either make the same mistake, or you can make a difference. We don't have to make the same mistakes and everything. But there's collective trauma that affects what can be passed down to our children and our children's children and so on. And my goal is to, like, when I become a parent, I don't want my child to have to go through anything I went through growing up. I want my child to know what it's like to have a loving, stable home life with two parents who love each other. All I want. I also want my child to know I'm walking right now so they can run. I don't want them to have to struggle financially or have to worry about where their next meal is coming from or worry if somebody's going to hurt them. I want my child to know what it's like to be protected, to be safe, to know that you have someone that loves you no matter what, and that you can always come to them for help no matter what it is. Mm. And how do we get over generational trauma? Well, it can be passed down both genetically and culturally, and our responses are also thought as completely tied to personal experiences. Research shows that generational trauma can get passed down from a person's DNA to the offsprings through epigenetic changes. So, when a person or a group of people experience trauma experiences like war, racism, sexism, national disasters, abuse, and oppression, the effects of trauma can get passed down through generations. And even when later generations have not experienced it firsthand. So we're probably wondering, what are some signs of generational curses and trauma? Well, codependency, unhealthy attachment styles, hypervigilance, difficulties trusting others, mental health conditions, substance abuse, evidence of generational trauma, and generational trauma patterns. What are some of the patterns that we can look at? Well, for trauma patterns, it can vary through each carry down through generation, and it doesn't have and it causes distinct patterns to emerge. Family members may follow the same patterns as their parents or grandparents, even without consciously realizing that they are mirroring the same behavior. It is incredibly difficult to break a cycle of generational trauma because it is often deep rooted and widespread across multiple parts of their lives. However, it is possible to break those patterns and heal from the trauma that has been present in their family history. So what so let's go over some signs again because I really think it's important to emphasize these. There's hypervigilance, difficulty trusting others, low self-esteem, there's fear of death, there's hopelessness, there's substance abuse problems, there's mental health disorders, there's difficulty processing, communicating emotions, anxiety, where do I have anxiety? And depression, I do have that as well. There's low self-esteem and isolation as well. What are some great examples of this? Well, I wouldn't say great, but here's some examples. It happens when traumatic experiences and their effect are passed down from one generation. It can be different and unique to a group of people. While it may not seem severely traumatic, someone from the outside perspective, from mental, emotional, or interpersonal damage is very real. Some people may have a generational trauma from one single incident. Others have it from a long and repeated experience or different traumatic experiences. What are the effects of the generational trauma? There's denial, detachment, disconnection, low self esteem, trauma bonding, neglect, abuse, violence, challenging mental health, leading to anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Um, Why is it important that we break these cycles? Well, breaking these curses can help people overcome negative patterns and repeat in their lives from their family history, and some say generational trauma can prevent people from being their best selves. And I honestly do believe that it's important that we learn how to break generational trauma and curses because we need to continue to move forward, not back. We also need to learn that not not we don't need to repeat everything our parents did, consciously or unconsciously. We may not know it, but there's some things we are. And I do believe therapy is a massive help with that. Um, I came from a generation where if you mention you were in therapy, you were frowned upon. And I'm thinking and I'm glad it's a more common thing today because we need the healing. We need breaking the cycle. And one day, as I said, my future children, I pray that they never had to go through a single thing I went through. I already broke the cycle of teen pregnancy. I broke the cycle of dropping. I broke the cycle when I graduated high school because my mom, my uncles, and my aunt, they never finished high school. It took the grandkids graduating high school to break that cycle. Some of us even went on to college, and we became first generation college students. I think it's important that we learn that breaking cycles is important, and we need to know that. But that is it. And join me next time as we talk about the strong friend. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And here's a important reminder on that one. You don't always have to be strong.